You're listening to Tech Chat with Samantha, the podcast for CEOs and business owners who want to simplify, systematize, and scale without breaking. I'm your host, Samantha Pointer, certified automation service provider and owner of Samantha Pointer Enterprises. After going through my own seasons of crisis and survival, I learned that automation isn't optional, it's essential. Every week, in just 15 minutes, more or less, I'll bring you stories, strategies, and practical steps to help you turn tech into your hardest working employee and build a business that runs without you. Let's dive in. Welcome back to Tech Chat with Samantha. If you listened to the last episode, we talked about why scaling back and simplifying systems comes before growth. In today's episode, why documenting your processes is the most overlooked growth lever, we will discuss what actually replaces complexity when you remove it. And yes, I know documentation doesn't sound exciting, but it might be the most important thing you're not doing consistently. If everything in your business lives in your head, your business feels fragile. You're constantly answering questions. You might find yourself repeating yourself or fixing the same mistakes. Or you could be jumping in to clarify things that should already be clear. That's not a people problem, it's a documentation problem. Documentation makes everything clearer. Documentation is often treated like busy work or admin work, but you should look at it for what it really is, and that is infrastructure. When you document, it supports delegation, it supports consistency, it supports automation, and it supports leadership. Now, I'm not going to say you can't automate what you haven't documented, but I will say is you definitely shouldn't. Why? Because that is how overcomplicated or thrown together automations turn into nightmares when something breaks. Without documentation, you won't know where to look first or even the reasoning behind why you set it up that way in the first place. Another thing is you can't delegate what only exists in your brain. And I know a lot of you CEOs and business owners are really like, "Oh, delegation, like, I know that's a hard thing. Documentation, delegation is what elite business owners and CEOs do to get everything done. You have to delegate. You can't be that one man on the island by yourself. So documentation makes this so much easier because there's literally a nice clean handout. So you don't need to document everything at first. I think that's why most business owners skip documentation is because they believe they have to do everything all at once. You got scraps of paper here, it might some in your brain, some on somewhere else. Another person who don't work there no more might know this, that, and the third. So it feels very overwhelming. But you don't have to document everything at first. Here's what you want to start with. You can start with recurring tasks. You can start with client onboarding. You can start with lead follow up. You can also start with internal handoffs and definitely anything you explain more than once because those are your leverage points. So most people think documentation is about saving time later. They assume the payoff comes once everything is written down and running smoothly. But that's not actually the first benefit you're going to feel. The first thing documentation does is reduce stress. When processes live only in your head, your brain never gets to rest. You're constantly remembering what happens next, answering the same questions, and mentally tracking things that should not require your attention, especially being the business owner. Even when you're not actively working, you're carrying the business around with you. Ever heard of bringing home your work? Yeah. Documentation removes that mental load. When something is written down, you no longer have to remember it. Your brain can let go, and that alone creates relief. It also reduces interruptions. Without documentation, your team has to come to you for everything. Every question, every clarification, every quick check pulls you out of focus. When processes are documented, people can find answers on their own. Your day becomes calmer and far less reactive. Remember, we don't want to be the reactive CEO. Documentation also creates confidence for your team. Clear processes tell people what done right looks like. They don't have to guess or second guess themselves. They can move forward without fear of messing something up, and that confidence shows up in better work. And finally, documentation creates clarity for you. When things are written down, you can actually see how work flows through your business. You can spot gaps, bottlenecks, and inefficiencies that were invisible when everything lived in your head. That clarity brings a sense of control and calm. Time savings do come later, efficiency follows, but the first real win is peace. Less mental noise, fewer interruptions, more confidence, more clarity. Documentation isn't just make your business faster, doesn't just make your business faster, it makes it lighter. And I'll pause here to also talk about the different types of documentation. Documentation doesn't have to just be written. It can be captured on your computer in a document. It could be captured with video. It could be captured with great software like puzzle maps. There's many ways you can document. So even voice recordings are documentation. As long as you have one central place to that is the one source of truth where you hold all this information, there's several different ways you can document. So don't get hung up on it has to be written or it has to be this way. Make sure your documentation, whichever way you choose, is something that you know you and your team will go back to, will use, that feels good to you, not just what everybody else is doing. So that's my little nugget dropped in there. And myself, yes, I have some, written documentation, but the majority of my documentation in my business is puzzle maps and videos. And those videos are embedded inside the puzzle map. That's how I document my processes and what works for me because I'm a visual person. So, if you're listening to this and you're realizing that documenting your processes feels overwhelming or like something that keeps getting pushed to the bottom of the list, that's exactly where focused support can help. A VIP day may be just what you need. It's not about doing everything in one day. It's about creating clarity where things feel messy and building documentation around the processes that matter most right now. Me and my partner, Austin, would love to talk to you more about how a VIP day might be the right solution for you. You can go to mindyourvipday.com to learn more. I'll also link that in the show notes. So, as we wrap up, documentation is not a nice to have. It's not admin work, and it's not something you wait to do later. Documentation is a growth requirement. It's what allows you to delegate with confidence. It's what supports automation that actually works. And it's what gives you back mental space and clarity as a business owner. Once documentation is in place, everything else becomes easier. Decisions are clearer, work flows more smoothly, and growth feels more intentional instead of exhausting. Thank you for joining me today. Until next time. That's it for today's Tech Chat with Samantha. If you're ready to stop being the bottleneck and finally get your systems working for you, grab the Tech Audit Starter Kit or book a technology breakthrough session at organizingguru.com. Thanks for listening, and remember,
Your business doesn't have to run you into the ground. With the right systems, it can run without you. Until next time, happy automating.